scoot closer to Tate, he won't bite. You can scoot closer to Tate, he won't bite.
Full house tonight.
All right, you all ready? Sam?
Yes.
Brenda? Cam? Call the Williams County Planning and Zoning Commission to order for Thursday, October 20th. Roll call, please.
Mark Farstead?
Here.
Sherelle Schill?
Here.
Dan Kalile? Barry Ramberg? Louise Scar? Adam Nelson?
Here.
Shane Simbalot?
Here.
James Burbick?
Here.
And Tate Simbalot?
Here, you have a quorum, we'll proceed, you get the minutes in front of you from the August 18th meeting, what are the wishes? Move to a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 2 items for new business. Angela Black requesting a conditional use permit for an agri-tourism outdoor rec center. It's currently in location sublot 4, section 3, Williams County Township, Missouri Ridge, 7 north of town. Sam?
Before you guys go too far, can you, when you say who is motioning and who is seconding, give me your names, because I don't recognize your voices that quickly. I'm not Missy. And I don't know who Kristen is.
Who made those motions, Dan?
I moved.
And Mark seconded it, right?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Sam, it's all you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Sam Miller with County Planning. So, like was mentioned by Mr. Chairman, Angela Black's requesting this conditional use permit for agritourism / outdoor recreation center. So, why we kind of gave it that use title was agritourism seemed to be the best fit for what Ms. Black was proposing. Currently, if you kind of looked into this use, they do have a temporary use permit to operate their facility, I guess you can call it, currently. So that's why if you see on like Facebook or they're out in the community promoting this, they do have a temporary use permit. So they're in compliance with our code currently. She's applying for a CUP because she wants to do more than just the 14 days out of the year that's allowable by the TUP. She wants to do this seasonally. So as you can see in the report, proposed uses would be a corn maze, pumpkin patch. So obviously those would be more towards fall. In the winter, we have snow tubing. And then there's some other uses that she included in there. Sluice mining. I don't know if you guys have ever done that, but you just basically like have these raised beds full of rock and water, and you're like shaking it to get the mineral or like gold and all that kind of stuff. And then an obstacle course, potentially rock climbing, mini golf, zip lining, etc. So the applicant had also listed additional activities that I found would not really fit under this agritourism, such as a pool, water park, and a spa retreat with hot tubs. That to me seems like something of a greater use than what I think would fit under the agritourism. And I've listed agritourism in the staff report. We actually have that as a definition in our staff report, so I won't read that whole thing, but it does include things as like U-Pick farms and pumpkin patches and Christmas tree farms. So the applicant has stated that they are insured for this type of use. They are registered with the Secretary of State's office. I checked into that, and that's part of the information that you were given tonight. I didn't fit that in the packet. Just a little bit about logistics. So access, they would take access from 60th Street Northwest. This road is maintained by both townships. It's a boundary road between Missouri Ridge and Tyrone. So I sent both townships comment letters soliciting comment for this proposal, and only Missouri Ridge commented back. They were in favor of this use. This road is heavily trafficked, and if any of you guys have been out to this road, it's pretty degraded. Like it needs some help. There's a lot of use on this road. So to the east, you have a pretty dense residential subdivision, and then to the west, you have a pretty dense commercial subdivision with a mobile home park as well. So there's a lot of traffic on this road. As you can see, the property is currently zoned light industrial. I'm not sure if you all remember this coming before you back in 2020, but the current owners, the Blacks, had approached the board in 2020 for a zone change and a comprehensive plan amendment to get this zoned from rural residential to light industrial for the purposes of a well service shop. So it was going to be called Black's Well Service. Times got financially difficult, but they still pulled a building permit and they're in the process of building that shop. So currently, they want to have this agritourism and the well service shop. So the shop would kind of be like it wouldn't be utilized like all the time. It's pretty much just for the well service shop materials. I guess I don't really all know what goes in there, but it's basically like a big garage, like a heated garage with an office for that. They have started to do the grading for that, but they haven't, to my knowledge, last time I checked, begun building the shop. So this is kind of their plan to generate some income alongside this well service shop. Okay. So I looked into, because I haven't seen many of these, even though I've visited many of these kind of, pumpkin patch things. I like them. They're fun. So I looked into similar projects around the state and how those counties or cities regulate those. So the majority of the ones I looked into, they were in agricultural or rural residential zoning districts, and they were on pre-existing farms. That's how a lot of them operate throughout the year. They're farms, and then they host these event type things during the seasons. So like the Christmas tree farm things is just for like a few weeks at a time. There's actually one in town, Cottonwood Forest. It's owned by the Cecils. They have a home on the property, and it's actually zoned agricultural as well. The city is in the process right now of creating this like hybrid, or I guess, yeah, they're proposing this, so it's not set in stone yet. But it's basically a hybrid between a conditional use permit and a temporary use permit. So an applicant would apply, and basically they would be allowed to do this event type thing for about 6 months. And then they'd have to reapply and reevaluate. This is so that they can continue to like change their site plan based on seasons or events or whatever. Because with the conditional use permit, you're pretty much like locked into what's approved at the time. And for uses like these, they're kind of like ever changing. So it's difficult for us as staff. Like, do you see this as a temporary use? Because a pumpkin patch isn't a year-round thing in North Dakota. Or do you see this as a conditional use permit, but then you have to list all of the event type things throughout the year, and those can't change the next year. So, yeah, it's a bit confusing for us, but we have proposals and possible solutions. So I have listed 8 conditions here. A few of them have to do with their initial well service shop. They haven't met all of those conditions yet because this well service shop hasn't been built. So they need to meet those conditions of the original approval for the light industrial use. If they don't move forward with the well service shop, the property is going to revert back to rural residential, which does not affect their conditional use permit for the pumpkin patch thing. Because, right, that makes sense that you would be able to have a pumpkin patch type thing in a rural residential neighborhood or zoning district. So that's my, that's a few of my comments listed in the division comments. One thing I wanted to propose, if I can, before we I'd love to have your feedback on this, but so what Cameron and I were thinking about is the ability for an annual renewal so that they can kind of update us on how the events are going. If they want to change their site plan for the next year, we could either ask them to amend the CUP or they can kind of continue with what was approved with their original CUP. So I'd love to hear your feedback and answer any questions that you may have. I know that was a lot. I just talked for like 15 minutes straight, so I'm going to take a breath.
Any questions for Sam at this time, or do you want to wait and go through the public hearing and then come back to Sam? Let's go through the hearing. Let's do the hearing, then we'll come back. Okay. This is a public hearing. Any public input? Any public input? Cameron, any public input back there? Close the hearing. Okay, now, questions, comments.
Okay, I have some questions. So just for the map, I see that there's parking. Do we have like a size? I guess I didn't see that, like the size of that, and then as well as the road. I just know that gravel roads, high traffic, can get cars to shake. We're talking about. It sounded like in one of the letters, the applicant already mentioned the roads were pretty high trafficked, and that's what they were concerned about. So that just seems like a theme. Is there anything we can talk about with traffic?
So regarding the dimensioned park area, I did ask for an updated site plan, and that's the most recent updated site plan. So it doesn't include dimensions. I've been out there myself, and she has like cleared this pretty decent size. It's a very big size parking area. It's set back a little bit from the road because there's like a ditch, so they can't really get too close to the road. I don't know the like distance from that road. And then regarding the question about the state of the road, that's a township road. And so if the township doesn't really maintain it as often as it needs to be, I guess as a county, we might have the ability to like send a letter and say like, hey, we've been getting concerns about, but they submitted approval for this kind of thing. And we don't typically ask for traffic counts for something like this because usually it won't like affect the road too much. So yeah, I guess I don't know. The township, we usually just rely on townships to provide us with, yes, this is okay, our roads can handle this, or no, our roads can't handle this.
I guess when I was going through the packet, I misunderstood. I did not know there was gonna be an industrial building in there. And that, to me, changes the whole dynamics of bringing kids, families, people in general, the public, out to the site where you're having an oil field service company. That changed my view. That was, I guess I didn't realize that at the time. Just my opinion.
Where exactly is the industrial building?
So in your packet, there in the site plan. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so they've already kind of cleared some space, and so in my site pictures, so if you can see, I don't know, like equipment very well, but like the tractor looking thing, like what are those called? In your site, in your packet. Excavator, is that what it is? Okay, it's the first picture. So right about where that vehicle is, that's where the shop would be located, and you can see the corn maze off in the distance there. There's 2 access points onto this site. And the access points basically go, or you can see it in the image. Cameron, would you mind taking off the light industrial zoning district? It would content. Oh, so go into details, content. Yeah. Yeah, so that's a pretty recent image. So if you zoom in a little bit, you can see like the start of the corn maze, and then yeah, right where his mouse is where the building itself would be.
So,
Right.
and does the industrial building use the same parking lot as the other activity?
So they no, the industrial building would have its own parking lot right alongside. So a building like that would need about 2 employee parking spaces, and it's going to be right alongside the building itself. So they're required to have a paved or a hard surfaced approach and driveway up to the shop. And what I think is their plan, from what I remember from their building plans, the parking spaces are going to be like right in front of the building.
Are they actually operating this oil?
The building.
Are they
Oh,
I mean, I know they don't have that building yet, because the ones I see, there's lots of pickups and trucks coming in, bringing in equipment, taking it out again. I mean, it might not be big equipment, but there's.
yeah. Yeah, so I'm not sure if Black's Well Services is an existing company. I believe last time I checked the Secretary of State's office, they had a up-to-date license or whatever, but I guess that doesn't really mean that they're operating.
I guess
Sorry? Okay.
that's my question too, is, are both businesses using the same approach? Is there a buffer between the business and this, or is it all just combined, merged together?
Yes, they would be using the same approach, and no, there isn't a separation currently proposed between the shop itself and these activities.
So say it's a busy night for a corn maze or something like that, and they're trying to get a semi in. Is that feasible? I mean, we're using
So
the same approach?
from my understanding of what the Wells shop would be used for is like part equipment. So I'm not sure like a semi would be, but then again, I don't know what all would go into running a well service shop. I have no clue.
See, I always feel all these people come in and tell us the very minimum they're gonna do. And then once they get, if it's a well service, to me, it's semis and, all kinds of stuff.
Out the traffic on that road, I mean, that is what it is. I don't know if we can, I don't know if you can hang your hat and say that is the reason why you approve or disapprove, but
Well, we've already proved all that commercial stuff out there, so it's hard to shut these guys down.
That's
We've already
correct.
proved everybody else to do the work on the same road.
we did it. All right, would anybody want to make a motion to approve or disapprove? Yeah, oh yeah, go on, I'm sorry.
Like leading, like kind of just, again, thinking about the zoning and purpose of the land and the best use going forward. What is the surrounding area? Are we building out that way, commercial, industrial, tourism? What is the surrounding area?
So, good question. So, the comprehensive use plan does not have us growing industrial and commercial businesses or rezoning along 60th Street. It's more focused to Highway 85. So that is kind of, I think, what you're alluding to with the spot zoning there for light industrial. So if they don't decide, and I think I mentioned this before, but I'll just mention it quick again. If they don't decide to build that well service shop, and their time is ticking, like they have only a certain amount of time to build this. If they don't do it, it's going to revert back to rural residential. We kind of gave them an extension because they were applying for this, and then they had applied for a grading permit. And we were just kind of working with them. But if they don't move forward with the well service shop for that light industrial zoning district, it will revert back to rural residential, and the applicant knows that.
Did I understand you right, that you said she had a permit to operate this already?
She has a temporary use permit. And so what we gave her with that temporary use permit was she could do anything that's not like permanent in nature. So the corn maze, she's got like bonfire pits out there. What else was included? I don't remember, just some things like the hay bales and things like that. So she has a temporary use permit to operate that. And I spoke with Cameron kind of because so typically how we designed the temporary use permit was for 14 consecutive days, but what we allowed was 14 days total. So she's gonna have like, so how she's operating it now is just, I think it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday until she runs out of those 14 days. That's the temporary use permit. So she could technically reapply for another temporary use permit. So in my mind, like a true agritourism thing, a temporary use permit makes more sense because then outside of pumpkin season, it goes back to its original use as a farm or as a well service shop or whatever else it is.
Or the other question, just to clarify on the conditional use permit, can we set it to expire in a year where she does have to come before us and renew it?
Yeah.
Or on any certain date?
Yeah, so typically we do have a section for renewals in our ordinance that it's for this purpose. Like we want to kind of see how you do, and if you're causing a lot of nuisance, which there's neighbors who are concerned, there's that option for us to do annual renewal. So they would come before us. We'd check to make sure there's no complaints in the area. We'd go out to the site, make sure they haven't like built anything illegal. Not saying they would, but you know, just to make sure. Yeah, that's an option.
I mean, I don't have a problem with the idea, it's just, my problem is with the business and that they're both with little kids running around and you don't know what's on the trailers or in the yard or something like that. There's gotta be some kind of separation, I feel, if we're gonna do anything here.
I like what she's trying to accomplish. I just don't know if it's combining the building, the industrial use of the building with the fun activities, which is, I think is great. We need it. It's fun, but the building's an issue.
Well, and I like the idea of, so they only have a few more months. I'd have to double check, but they only have a few more months to begin building the well service shop. So could we allow them to keep getting temporary use permits until they either say, hey, we're not actually going to move forward with well service, it reverts to rural residential, and at that time you can apply for a conditional use permit, or if the well service gets built and you still want to apply for a conditional use permit. It's just kind of like hinging on the actual building of this well service shop, in my mind.
Sam, a question on paragraph 3 of page 7 of 41, or 2 of 28, depending on where you're looking at, where it starts with the definition of agritourism. A commercial enterprise at a working farm, ranch, or agricultural plant conducted for the enjoyment or education of visitors who participate in the agricultural activity. And then it goes further on from there. So my question is, it's not a working farm or ranch, it's 9.8 acres. Or agriculture, I don't know what an agricultural plant is. Is that a wild oat or is that grain bins and augers?
Yeah.
You'd have to enlighten us on that, so.
So
I'm confused about how it fits this fits that category.
So agriculture, as you all know, is a very protected thing within North Dakota. It's a very protected use. So them harvesting corn on their site is seen as an agricultural, like harvesting, growing, potentially selling an agricultural product. So that's kind of, that was my like reasoning for them fitting under that. And then also obviously later on they speak directly to what this applicant's doing. Yep.
All right, any other questions for Sam? And we think they have a couple months to make a decision on the building of yay or nay?
I don't want to put our director on the spot, so I won't. But last time I spoke with Missy, who was following, she usually tracks like how long after an application's submitted that they have to start building, and it had expired. So it's been 18 months since they had to begin construction based on the approval for the zone change. It's been 18 months since 2020. We gave them an extension because they started grading. They went through stormwater management, which that's a long, lengthy process. And so that was kind of my understanding is like, hey, we're working with you. Okay, now you just applied for this conditional use permit. Let's see how that plays out. But you do have to begin building pretty quick, especially now this late in the season. So, I mean,
If I could, can I add some input on that? Can I add comment to this? Cameron Heimer, Development Services. Yeah, as Sam said, they do have a temporary use permit right now that is active. That's something that is approved administratively, and it's just that, it's temporary. However, if I get an application or a request for a temporary use permit where I'm not comfortable with it or think that there could be potential problems, I do have the right to bring it in front of the boards. And so because the shop currently wasn't built and there was nothing on the property, I felt it was appropriate. But yeah, I certainly see and understand some of the concerns of potentially running an oil field type business and mixing in with people that are coming to the property. And so if that were the case, that would have required them to come in front of the boards to seek approval. And Sam is correct. I did extend an administrative extension for their CUP to build that shop. I typically will only extend those once administratively, and if they can't meet the deadlines or what's required, then they will have to come back in front of the boards to apply for another CUP or zone change because it would revert, or they can contest it to the Board of County Commissioners. But I don't know the date either. It's coming up soon. I believe it was before the end of the year when they had to have an actual building permit pulled and constructing.
So if it gets tabled, they can still operate though with the corn maze and the fun activities for the kids, right? Is that fair? to say?
Correct, correct, Sam.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, they still have some use left on that.
Okay.
yeah, and then because they're not using it consecutively, like every day of the month, they could apply for another temporary use permit.
So if it came to the time where they wanted to sell Christmas trees around Christmas time, then she could approach our office and apply for another TUP. And if we feel the conditions are appropriate still out there, then that's something that is done administratively.
What are the wishes?
Motion to table.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
And then can I also get who made the motion and the second?
Okay, next item on the agenda is Matthew and Joyce Burton requesting a zone change to rural residential for 2 lots. It's currently zoned agriculture, I'm guessing, and it's out in Athens Township. Sam, on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, yeah, so this one's very straightforward. Actually, the plat was done so well that it's on my desk ready to be recorded, following if this does get approved. This is a pretty straightforward subdivision. The applicant wants to create 2 roughly 10-acre lots. One already has a home on it, and the other one, I believe, is for a family member. The rest of it will remain in the agricultural zoning district. That's the remainder, 142 acres. There is some like oil well type facilities on those, but as you know, we don't regulate those. Yeah, so those smaller parcels will be added into the rural residential zoning district with your recommendation. Staff had just one comment. Oh, also these will take access all from the same road, 72nd. It's in pretty good shape. I drove out there myself. Some oil field traffic does go on it, but I think it's pretty well maintained for, it's really not very much out there. The township recommended approval with no comments, and staff had a comment only to record the plat and to adhere to all zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations.
Okay, any questions for Sam? Don't lose that. Okay, no questions. I will open up the hearing. This is a public hearing. Any public input? Last time, any public input? Close the hearing. What are the wishes of the board?
Motion approved with staff comment. Mark?
Is there a
James.
second?
James Burvig, I'll second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes. Yes.
Jen? Sherelle?
Yes.
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 No, Chris, that must be an old one.
Tate?
Yes. Motion carries. Old business, anything? Discussion items? Anybody else? Anything?
No, I just wanted to thank Brenda for taking minutes and roll. That's really appreciated. And then Cameron for running maps and answering questions.
I'll give
Yeah,
a little
it's
bit. Just
stressful.
You guys did an outstanding job.
thank you.
Great job.
If I can just give a brief update on my staff. As you know, Rachel has decided to be a stay-at-home mom, which we're excited for that. So she's no longer with our department. I think you probably know Sam is staying full-time until October 28th. And then she's going to transition to a different path, but she's still going to help us until we can get another planner on. I did just give an offer to a staff planner who accepted, and she currently works in the treasury recorder. Michelle Haugen will be our new staff planner, and we're still on the lookout for a senior planner and/or planning official. And so bear with our department. We are going to be short-staffed. Missy has gone out for medical reasons for about 6 weeks, so her sister is actually temporarily being our admin, but it's a little hectic up there right now, but we'll try our best. So if you send the public our way, whether it's calls, emails, we're going to try our best to do it, but we are extremely short-staffed right now. So just wanted to give the board an update on that.
Thanks, Cameron. Appreciate it. Meeting, next one is November 17th. That's it. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
One question for Sam.
Yes.
Sam is leaving?
No.
Transition?
Part-time.
Yeah, for now. So I'll be starting, October 31st. I'll be in the office like 3 days a week. And then I'll be at every planning and zoning meeting and board of county commission meeting and water board meeting until my position gets filled.
Go ahead, Mark.
Sam, just a question, we did a lot split here. What happened on that one we didn't approve last meeting, like 2 months ago, 3 months ago? That the people wanted to use it as a rental or something? What did the county commission do on that?
They voted to deny. Yeah.
Anything else, guys? Is there a motion to adjourn? Yes. Is there a second? Yes. All in favor?